So sorry everyone, welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. How's the form? How are we all getting on? So Dublin have beaten Limerick. This is not AI, this is not fake, this is not a dream, this is real life. Dublin have actually gone and beaten the Limerick Hurlers. I mean, how on earth has this happened? I mean, this is absolutely crazy, absolutely insane. One of the greatest wins in the history of Dublin hurling that I have ever seen. Possibly, in my life, and I think multiple other people's lives as well. They won the game 224 to 28 points. We're going to react to that game, break it down. I never really actually expected to do a reaction to this game, to be honest with you, because of the fact that Limerick, it was Limerick. I mean, Limerick were just going to win this game by 10 or 12 points. I was at a family barbecue and I was thinking, obviously watching the game and everything else. And the more the game was going on, you were thinking, oh my God, this is on. This is on. This is happening. And then all of a sudden it's like, Jesus, Dublin might actually win this. And you were hoping Dublin would stick with Limerick. You were hoping they would be competitive. You were hoping that they would be able to do something. But goodness gracious me, for Dublin to actually have gone and beaten Limerick, in Croke Park, like it's beyond belief. Like it's absolutely staggering, crazy. I can't find the superlatives to actually describe this. It's just absolutely insane. And like when you factor in as well, like this is one of the greatest hurling teams of all time, in my opinion. Like a team that won 6 Munsters in a row, a team that won 4 All-Irelands in a row, a team that won 5 All-Irelands in the span of 6 years, when you go back from 2018 up until 2023. Like one of the greatest teams of all time. And this Dublin team, by all accounts, doesn't have the right to even compete with this Limerick team. And the fact we were even playing them in a quarter-final was bizarre enough in itself, because Limerick had obviously dropped off a little bit to end up in this position. But insane. And you factor in as well that Dublin did this with 14 men. They had a man sent off after 15 minutes, and yet they still went and won the game. And this wasn't a case of like a smash and grab or anything like that, where Limerick were leading and then we just managed to get this great run of form. Dublin were leading this game for the vast majority. I think there was only really one period in the game where Limerick managed to turn it around, and they hit 4 or 5 points, I think, on the bounce in around the 40th minute, 40 to 50th minute, before Dublin obviously get their 2 goals from Cian O'Sullivan and John Heatherton. And you're thinking, right, Dublin are maybe on the ropes a little bit kind of prior to those goals, because Limerick had just started to step it up, just started to turn the tide, and just started to dominate our own puck outs as well. But no, that wasn't the case at all. Like Dublin just said, no, we're getting goals. And phenomenal performance from Dublin. Like so proud of the lads to have gone and actually done that. The fight, the spirit from some of the players, like in particular Conor McHugh defensively. What a performance. Absolutely outrageous. John Bellew, absolutely outstanding as well. Midfield, you're looking at Conor Burke, who had the absolute game of his life. Brian Hayes was outstanding as well. This was just brilliant hurling from Dublin. And for Limerick, it was just bizarre watching them a little bit. They definitely weren't at the levels. They definitely weren't at the heights that you would normally associate a Limerick team. They looked a little bit off the pace. They looked a little bit leggy, a little bit disinterested at times. And it was clear as day that Limerick were, and this was a classic case of Limerick looking further down the line, looking towards the All-Ireland semi-final, maybe the final as well. It felt like Limerick just felt like they needed to turn up, and they would win the game quite comfortably. That wasn't the case at all. They struggled. And when this game became a fight and when this game became a battle, Limerick didn't want it. You know what I mean? I always felt like Limerick would come back and turn it around, because they've been in these battles, they've been in these fights with better teams than this Dublin team, with all due respect. You were expecting Limerick to step it up at some point and find a way to win the game, especially with the extra man as well. But that wasn't the case. It was actually Dublin who stepped up and were phenomenal. Sean Curry, absolutely outstanding with 9 points. Rhea McBride, I thought, a very good game as well, scoring 2 points. And obviously the goals as well, like absolute like sort of momentum killers for Limerick, because they came at a time when it was just looking like Limerick were starting to turn the tide. I mean, as I was saying, Limerick had hit 4 points on the bounce to turn it around from being 3 points down to a point up. And then John Heatherton and Cian O'Sullivan both scored 2 goals in the space of a minute. And it was absolutely incredible. And do you know what? I was raging not to be there at Croke Park, like seeing some of the fans and the full-time celebrations and everything else, and seeing some different clips on Twitter. Like, wow, like what a day. And it must have been bizarre being in there as a Dublin fan, like before the footballers were playing, because like, I'm not going to lie, like after Dublin winning that game, it was like, I felt like I needed a couple of hours to even watch the Dublin Cork game. Do you know what I mean? I felt like it was almost like not disinterested in that game, but just like I need to process what we've just done here. I need to celebrate what we've just done here. Like, we can't have another game after this. And thank God the Dublin footballers won, because Jesus Christ, I mean, talk about putting a dampener on it. And fair enough. We'll discuss that game in a different video. Dublin get through against Cork. They get over the line. But, yesterday was not about the footballers. Yesterday was about the hurlers. Like, wow. And look, I'm not expecting this Dublin team to win in All Ireland, or even get beyond Cork in the semi-final. Like, it's going to be very, very tough to whatever about beating Limerick. This Cork team are definitively, in my opinion, and I think you have to admit it now, the best team in the country, and there's no question about that. They won Munster, they won the league, and look, we gave Cork a bit of a go last year, actually, in a preliminary round game, quarter final. Cork managed to hold on and see that game through. But yeah, like, I wouldn't expect us to beat Cork, but who knows? There's more important things than hurling. But look, Dublin, what a day. Absolutely incredible, absolutely extraordinary. One of the best days following Dublin hurling for them to have come through that. The fight, the tenacity, the spirit, the desire from some of these lads was absolutely off the charts. And for Limerick, like, is it the end of an era? I've seen a few people saying that, like, and is this maybe the end of an era for Limerick hurling? A lot of their players, look, some of their players are getting older. Your Tom Morrissey, these kind of lads, Nicky Quaid. Like, how much more have they got to give? Declan Hannon, within this Limerick team, how much more have they got to give for Limerick? They still have a lot of young players, like Aaron Glenn, that could still knock around for a good couple of years. Kyle Hayes could still keep going if he's, we won't mention anything else there. And then, of course, we do have some of the younger lads coming through, like Shane O'Brien and Adam English. Look, Limerick will be back in the mix next year. They'll be up there again. They'll be in the conversation, of no doubts about it. Will John Coyley stick around? That's going to be hard to know. He's, in my opinion, one of the greatest managers to have, of the modern era. Be interesting to see, does he stick around? There was rumors last year that he might leave. And I thought his post-match interview was absolutely brilliant as well, full of praise for Dublin. I've always been a big admirer of John Coyley. And whilst Limerick do get a lot of hate from the general public, like, the mad thing is, I've always been so positive about Limerick. I've always given them praise. I've seen a lot of comparisons down the years between the Limerick hurlers and the Dublin footballers. And maybe this is somewhat similar as well, where, when the Dublin footballers, when that 6 in a row got ended by Mayo in 2021, all of a sudden after that, like, Dublin were vulnerable, for a couple of years. And it was like, it's like a big fighter, a heavyweight boxer who's unbeatable, who's knocking everyone out. And all of a sudden they get knocked out themselves and their chin is vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it looks like with this Limerick side now, where a lot of teams feel like they can beat them. Whereas maybe a couple of years ago, there was that aura, there was that fear that, you're playing one of the greatest of all time. And psychologically, it takes it out of you as well. So they're just absolutely remarkable, incredible. And look, going up against Cork in the next game, you would expect Cork to beat us comfortably. Look, and like, the predictions for this game, and I know there was some people out there commenting on the Power Rankings video, which I should nearly go back and delete now, because of course Dublin were going to win this game after uploading that video. Like, it's just the jinxes that I caused Dublin. Like, I should just keep saying that Dublin will lose. Yes, Dublin will get absolutely battered by Cork. They will lose by 20, 30 points. No problem. That's what's going to happen. Mark my words, 100%. Clip this up now. Share it on Twitter. It's going to happen. Like, who would have predicted Dublin to have beaten Limerick? Like, it was just, like, I think Dublin were 16-1 before a ball was pucked. And even at that, like, those odds were quite generous, in my opinion. And I think, because a lot of people have been cleaning out the bookies in the last couple of years, odds have become shorter and shorter. Like, 10 years ago, that game was probably 50-1, maybe even 60-1 for Dublin, in my opinion. So absolutely extraordinary stuff there. And, like, to think, like, who would have predicted in 2025 that the Dublin footballers would lose to Meath and the Dublin hurlers would beat Limerick? I mean, fucking hell. It's like 2025 has been a mad year in terms of GAA, hasn't it? Like, so many shocks, surprises. And hurling, to be fair, a lot of people have been saying the hurling championship hasn't been that great this year. And probably outside of the Munster final, it probably has been a little bit underwhelming at times. But Jesus, does this make up for it? And as a Dublin fan, I will absolutely take it. I did want to reference the other game as well that took place yesterday, and it was Galway 217, Tipperary 128, and what a win, what a performance by Tipperary. I predicted Tip to win this game, so got one out of my two predictions right. And the mad thing is, when I was putting up the Hurling Power Rankings, and even in the preview show, I was like, am I being a bit too disrespectful to Galway? I felt like this would be the game that would come back to bite me. Never would I have ever imagined that the Dublin Limerick would be the one to come back and bite me. And look, Dublin beating Limerick doesn't magically put Dublin in the top 3 or top 4 of the power rankings or anything like that, but it probably does bring Limerick down probably a little bit, to be fair, after like a big result like that. But yeah, what a win by Tipperary. What a performance. They're really starting to come together now under Liam Cahill, it must be said. So dominant, and to brush Galway away like the way that they did was absolutely phenomenal. And Tipperary, mark my words, like they will now fancy their chances at an All-Ireland, in my opinion. Like going up against Kilkenny in the All-Ireland semi-finals. Look, they'll have much rather playing Kilkenny in the semi-finals than Cork. So, the Tipperary fans, I'm sure, will be very, very happy to have seen that Dublin have beaten Limerick. I think a lot of people will be. Look, Cork will be absolutely delighted that they're playing Dublin rather than Tipperary in a semi-final, and they'll absolutely be delighted that they don't have to face Limerick again by all accounts. Yeah, some really, really top performers from Tipperary. The likes of Andrew Ormond scoring 5 points. Jake Morris was brilliant. John McGrath doing the business again with 3 points. Darren McCarthy was very impressive. And even the players coming off the bench for Tipperary as well. Like you had Dara Stakelum scoring 2 points. You had Donoghue getting a goal as well. It feels like a lot of the younger players for Tipperary who've started to, who were kind of slowly coming through the scene over the last couple of years are now starting to really make their impact. The likes of Andrew Ormond, the likes of Darren McCarthy as well, Dan Stakelum, these lads, Donoghue, young players who are now able to make a difference and make an impact with Tipperary. And look, they're dark horses for this All-Ireland, in my opinion. I know we're down to 4 teams, but a lot of people probably won't look at Tipperary because of where they've been over the last couple of years. But, ironically enough, out of the 4 teams that are left, they actually are the most, the team who've most recently won an All-Ireland. And they actually probably are the team with the most All-Ireland experience as well. Like when you look at John McGrath, Noel McGrath, these kind of lads. So, kind of incredible stuff there from Tipperary, but phenomenal performance. Galway, very, very flat, very lethargic, very in line with what I've been saying about Galway all year. Just very one-dimensional, way too reliant on Cathal Mannion. He scored 13 points of their 217 today. Or yesterday, and that just puts that into perspective. Can't get anything from Conor Whelan. There's just nothing else around their forward line. It's just been the same old for Galway, and it's hard to know. Like I think, you stick with Micheál Donoghue, but I think he needs a clear out. In my opinion, he needs a rebuild, and there needs to be a new kind of Galway team put together, because I don't think they're going to get anywhere with the majority of those current players. In my opinion, that might sound harsh, but that's just how I feel. But look, the day belongs to Tipperary, and the day absolutely belongs to Dublin as well. Absolutely extraordinary. Wanted to make a video on this because, as I said, I was out last night, so I didn't get a chance to make the video. Hence why, probably looking a little bit rough, a little bit hungover after yesterday. Because how could you not have a few cans? Enjoying the weather, enjoying Dublin hurling as well. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, does it? But yeah, looking forward to watching the games today, of course, as well. Some big matches in the Tailteann Cup and in the All-Ireland preliminary quarterfinals as well. Hit the like button and subscribe if you could. And you know what? Up the fucking dubs.